Hi, I'm Billy Mitchell with FedScoop TV. Today I'm here with Jeff Hogarth, the Senior Sales Director for Civilian Agencies at Dell Federal. How are you, Jeff?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to have you here. And today we're at the VMware Public Sector Innovation Summit, and we're talking about just that, innovation. And I want to pick your brain a little bit about the particular government innovations or initiatives that are driving innovation within federal agencies and how you guys at Dell Federal are supporting that innovation.
Well, you look at innovation, I kind of view it, we'll break it into two quadrants here in my mind. For one, policy-driven innovation. That's largely being led by FITARA, the FITARA initiatives that have gone on. And I think you'll talk about innovation. Take a look at something that's completely different in the fact that we have a law enacted where we have bipartisan support, basically enabling innovation.
Sure.
And I think the other thing, to point out is the fact that the CIO now does have a seat at the table, which they had not had previously. So I think that is another key ingredient as far as driving innovation. As it relates to the market conditions, I think you look at everything in today's world right now, from cloud to cyber to mobility to big data to software-defined. Those are market-led initiatives that are helping define and lead innovation too. So I think those are key elements that are some of the drivers for innovation. I think if you kind of take a step back and look from an overall FITARA standpoint, data center optimization, open standards, moving to that, IT asset management, those are all central to what Dell has been doing for years as far as our messaging. So I think the way Dell has aligned our go-to-market strategy definitely aligns nicely with what Tony Scott and FITARA has done and is driving the federal community as well. So I think, you look at it from where Dell stands, we definitely line up with what Tony Scott and FITARA has been driving as far as moving away from legacy to an open standards base, data center optimization and enhancement, and IT, asset portfolio management. Those are all core central ingredients to where Dell is really driving and what we have been messaging for years. As it relates to what we're actually doing, with agencies at an agency mission level, their focus really is enablement of the mission and what do we do to enhance the mission there. So I'll give an example of what we have done around desktop virtualization. Historically, we have seen organizations that the worker goes into the office, sits in their cube, sits at their fixed asset. But in today's world, we have a highly mobile workforce, and we have a workforce that needs to go to its customer base. So whether you're looking at law enforcement, you're looking at oversight as far as organizations that go out and do inspection, things along those lines, or just public-facing organizations, mobility is a key element, and I think we have been a key driver in enhancing that productivity level.
Sure. And for other federal agencies who are trying to catch up, aren't quite there yet in terms of innovation, what advice might you have to, give them some tips on how to get there a little quicker?
I think you take small steps, so right out of the gate. So let's identify areas where you can establish wins. So you think about today's workforce or today's environment. There's a lot of opportunity from an IT perspective, as we just touched on. Cloud, big data, software-defined IT consumption models. These are all areas that we view customers. They can go right at it, and try to pull these into their environments, or they can take a step back and take a look at what they're doing today.
Yeah.
So let's just utilize or give an example of data centers. So how often do we see organizations that order product, and the product, the minute that product is received, they're billed for that product, and the clock is ticking as far as paying. The product sits in a warehouse and is not operationalized for months on end. Dell has a as-a-service model where you can literally order product, data center specific, where until you bring that in and stand it up and where it's in an operational mode, the billing does not start. And I think that as a service model is an example of innovation. So innovation, people think innovation is only about new technology. It is, but it's also finding new ways to solve existing problems.
Yeah.
And I think that's an area that we can definitely highlight is a as a service model where you can see residual ROI and you can make a difference in your business. I also think that the fear of failure from an organizational standpoint cannot inhibit innovation. So what I mean by that is organizationally, in many of the agencies that we support have mission critical components to it, so cannot fail at any cost. Those must be up at all time. But I believe that if a organization is so reluctant to have any kind of failure, that the ability, and they follow the same path as they've always followed as far as playing it safe, and this is the model that we know, and we're not going to deviate from that model. I don't think innovation can ever really become a reality. So I think that is a new opportunity for organizations to take a look at and say, okay, we want to encourage new ideas and doing things differently.
Sure. And then finally, any other areas do you see that are particularly most fertile for innovation within federal agencies? You named a couple, but anything else that, top of mind that really hits the nail on the head?
Well, I would say, there's a couple areas that we can maybe focus on, and I think there's a myriad of opportunities, in areas that you could focus on. But just something that's practical, and addressable. So IT asset management. We hear time and again, how organizations don't really know what they have in their environment. So they don't know. So they send people out to do physical counts of the boxes that they have in their data center. They do data calls out to the field, and more times than not, the information that comes back or the information that they garner is incorrect. So what we see is an agency has a chance to, or more times than not, will go overspend on product, whether it's hardware or software, where it's not needed. So I think creating an environment where there's robust IT asset and software management would be a potential easy win to address this issue. And I think it's from an agency level, we see it throughout. Secondly, I would say you look at how we currently utilize assets in the field. We see some assets that are legacy in nature, that are 6 and 7 years old. And I think getting on a life cycle management cycle where you can utilize and incorporate Moore's Law into the environment as a way to move away from these 6 and 7, 8-year-old platforms that are not only a financial drain, but are also vulnerable from a security standpoint too. So I think if you get into this IT cycle where you can recognize not only new equipment, you can gain greater efficiencies as far as operational efficiencies, power cooling, more robust platforms as far as security, denser platforms that have smaller footprint, from a data center perspective. I think that's another area that you can really capitalize on getting more residual bang for the buck.
Sure. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say those are just a couple ideas.
Absolutely. Well, sorry for cutting you off, but Jeff, that's all I have for you.
Okay.
Great job. I appreciate you stopping by today.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm Billy Mitchell with FedScoop TV. Thanks for watching.